Lost in the warped faction of the universe's finest warriors battle in a no-holds-barred, all-out brawl for glory, honor, and blood.
It's DeadLocked Arena, baby!
Powered by Baron of Dice. The only place in the warp where you can watch non-stop action. I'm Craig Capital.
I'm Harry H. Hostel.
And I'm Chris Punishment. We're the official announcers for this match.
Welcome to the first ever DeadLocked Arena Tournament. That'll take place over the course of the entirety of the first season. Whoever comes out on top will be crowned as the first ever DeadLocked Arena Champion, baby!
There are 6 teams in the first round that'll each play 2 games. Whoever has the most combined points will move on to the second round.
In today's match, they'll be running Supply Run on the Octarius battlefield. 2 teams will face off to take control of 3 objectives. Each team will have to select operatives to carry homing beacons onto the objectives to keep control of the objectives.
You can manipulate which objective the supplies will land at by stacking homing beacons on the objective of your choice. When turn 3 and 4 come around, one objective will no longer be designated as a viable drop zone. The objectives with the most homing beacons will have the highest chance of being the remaining drop zone.
For the first 2 turning points, each objective is worth 2 points. The third turning point, they are worth 3, and the final turning point, the last objective, is worth 6.
Coach Ian is leading the Corsair Voidscarred for a second time. His first match in the preseason didn't go so well, so let's hope he learned a thing or two and is ready to give us a show.
Please, Craig, let's call it what it was, a dog walking.
That is true, his stocks are not looking too high.
For the other team, we have Coach Jack debuting in his first match ever on DeadLocked Arena. Let's hope the pressure of debuting on the first episode of the season doesn't get to him.
He looks like such an honest coach. He'd never cheat.
Surely, he seems like an upholder of justice.
He's coaching the DeathWatch Veterans, led by the DeathWatch Sergeant, Fighter, Bolt Warrior, Shotgun Warrior, Heavy Gunner with Frag Cannon, and Gunner with Combi Flamer.
Wow, that sure is a team.
Sure is, Chris.
No, that's not what
Now let's get on to the roll-off.
Voidscarred wins initiative and decides to go first. Voidscarred will be using their Soul Guard TAC op. DeathWatch is activating Executioner on the Heavy Gunner and targets the Voidscarred Felarch.
Shade Runner runs to Objective 3 and takes shelter inside the building, and covers the objective hoping to hold it for a turn to secure some points.
DeathWatch makes their own mad dash towards Objective 1 with their fighter. They drop a homing beacon, the first one planted in the kill zone.
The Fate Dealer hones in on the fighter with the beacon and takes a shot. He rolls a 2, 2 3s, and a 5. The fighter is removed from play.
Hey, isn't that the only DeathWatch player with a homing beacon?
So yeah, I wanted to save the equipment point on my guys, so I decided I'll leave it up to fate.
And some would say his fate was dealt.
The Heavy Gunner moves up towards Objective 1 and fires on the Fate Dealer. They get 2 4s and a 5. The Fate Dealer can only avoid the one attack and goes down.
And just like that, the Fate Dealer's fate is sealed as well.
Yeah, street justice.
The Felarch responds to the Brain Blast to the DeathWatch Heavy Gunner and hits with the 5 and 2 3s. The Heavy Gunner is able to block the first hit, leaving them with 3 hit points.
Using Coordinated Strike, the Voidscarred Gunner bolts around the corner behind the Felarch and fires on the opposing Heavy Gunner. They manage 2 hits and still use a command point to re-roll a miss and gets 2 3s and a 5.
The Heavy Gunner is unable to avoid the follow-up and is removed from the kill zone.
DeathWatch Warrior dashes up to Objective 2 in hopes of securing some points this turn, and the Voidscarred Warrior dashes up to Objective 3 and activates his homing beacon.
The DeathWatch Warrior shoves the barrel of his shotgun between the walls and somehow splits the shots with the Xenopurge shells at the Voidscarred Shade Runner and Warrior.
Can that shotgun do that?
DeathWatch hits 2 on the Shade Runner, but they're able to block the one, taking 3 damage.
The other 2 shots are a 4 and a 1, but with the command reroll, it's a hit and a crit. The Warrior can't block the crit, taking 5 damage.
The Hunter attempts to use Foul Shoe on the Warrior, but rolls a 1. They charge instead. DeathWatch gets a hit and the Hunter gets 2, using 1 to parry the DeathWatch swing and sending the other through for 3 damage.
The Sergeant activates his Auspex on the Warrior and climbs the building in search of some high ground.
Soul Weaver runs over to their fellow Warrior and uses Soul Heal for 1 health.
DeathWatch's Warrior make their own move towards the Soul Weaver and fires on them with Hellfire rounds. They manage to get 2 hits, but both are avoided by the Soul Weaver.
The Duelist runs up towards Objective 1 while the Wayseeker makes a dash down center.
DeathWatch's Shotgun Warrior overwatches and lands a crit. The Wayseeker can't avoid it, taking 4 damage.
The Wayseeker's manifesting psychic power to strike the Warrior with Lightning Bolt. They get a hit and a crit, but the Warrior is able to push through. The second one is way more powerful, getting 2 crits and 2 hits. The DeathWatch Warrior can't block them all and takes a massive hit of 10 damage, leaving them barely standing with 1 health remaining.
What a way to end Turning Point 1. With the score 4-2 in favor of Voidscarred, we move on to Turning Point 2.
Going into turn 2, Voidscarred takes initiative again and chooses to not use any strategic ploys.
DeathWatch chooses to use the famous Bolter Discipline this turn.
Wayseeker seeks to end his grudge against the Warrior with Shotgun and sends a final Lightning Bolt, hitting with a 4, 3, and 4.
They save 2 attacks with 2 crits, but it wasn't enough and the Wayseeker sends the Warrior packing, relieved of his grudge.
DeathWatch Sergeant moves to the edge of the building and fires a supercharged plasma pistol at the Soul Weaver. He hits with a 4, 5, a crit, and a second crit. Soul Weaver saves with 1 crit, but even so, there's no traces of him left the syllabus.
The Sergeant's second attack with a charged plasma pistol is aimed at the Voidscarred Warrior. He hits with 2 crits.
Is he allowed to do that? Doesn't Bolter Discipline only pertain to the bolter part of the gun?
Good question, Chris, but he also rolled a 1, so that's 3 mortal wounds to the Sergeant. That's the danger of supercharging. The Warrior is dead.
The Shade Runner is attempting to become the Fade Runner as it attempts a drive-by slicing attack on the Sarge.
That's 5 damage.
The Bolt Gun Warrior cuts off the Shade Runner around the corner using Hellfire rounds. He hits with a 3, 5, and a second 5. The Shade Runner saves 2, but takes 3 damage.
second onslaught, he's using vengeance rounds. He hits with a 4 and a 5.
The Shade Runner manages to save both, but not until after a command point reroll.
Now the Hunter continues his war with one of the DeathWatch warriors. He rolls good with a 3, 4, and 2 5s. But all the Hunter had to do to win was to hit him with his crit.
The Felarch walks out from cover and the warrior immediately overwatches with Hellfire rounds. He hits with a 4 and 2 criticals.
The Felarch saves a crit and a normal hit, taking a crit for 4 damage. The Felarch finishes his turn by shooting at the warrior with a 3, 4, and 2 5s.
The warrior manages to save 1, taking 9 damage.
Oh, and because of coordinated strike, the gunner gets to have a turn too. He swings around and hits 3 crits and a normal, decimating that warrior.
Turn 2 comes to a close with the duelist getting comfortable on Objective 3. The score is 8-2 in favor of Voidscarred.
Are you striving to become a DeadLocked Arena commander? Well, to get started, you'll need to be supported by the best dice in the warp. Baron of Dice is your one-stop shop for premium wargaming dice.
These bad boys are made with premium resin materials and colored dyes. Each dye is hand mixed to and carefully swirled to perfection before being laser engraved with the wicked symbol.
Now get rolling like a DeadLocked Arena champion and test your mettle against our great gladiators, baby!
DeathWatch wins initiative for once.
Coach Jack chooses to use Bolter Discipline once more, and again, Coach Ian refuses to use any strategic ploys. And it looks like Objective 1 is being removed from the field.
The sergeant walks across the rooftop and decides to make a plasma shot at the Wayseeker. He hits with 2 5s, and it doesn't look like the Wayseeker is able to save, and he's removed from play.
And for some reason, he's taking another shot?
Again?
But it hits the Hunter for 2 3s, a 5, and a crit. The Hunter is gone.
The Voidscarred duelist and gunner run around picking stone, and the Felarch thinks it looks like fun and wants to join. But the sergeant for some reason doesn't like that, so he overwatches at the Felarch. He hits with a 4, a 5, and 2 crits, incapacitating the Felarch before he can join in on the fun.
The Shade Runner decides to pick his rocks and cover to avoid the same fate the Felarch received, ending the turn 11-5 in favor of Voidscarred.
Voidscarred take initiative for the third time this game.
Things are looking on the up and up for the Elves, and it's now 3-on-1.
That's true, but you know what they say about backing a dishonest animal into a corner.
DeathWatch Sergeant is armed with Bolter Discipline going into this turn.
Somehow.
Someone please check on this?
Fade Runner grabs another Spirit Stone and uses a slicing attacks on the Lone Wolf, rolling a 4 and doing 3 damage to the Sergeant.
That leaves him at 1 wound.
The Sergeant answers by supercharging his pistol and takes aim at the Shade Runner. He hits with 3 5s and a crit, absolutely decimating the Shade Runner.
The Sergeant shoots again.
Somehow!
That should be the outer range gunner. And hits with 2 4s and a critical. The gunner manages to save the normal hit, but still takes the crit, dealing 6 damage.
Someone needs to inspect that plasma pistol after the game and make sure it hasn't been tweaked with. He's shooting out of
The
range.
gunner attempts to grab the nearest Spirit Stone, but again, the Sergeant supercharges his plasma pistol at the Elf. He hits with 2 3s, a 5, and a crit.
He's supposed to be hitting on 4s due to the -1 on Overwatch.
Yes, Chris, but the gunner manages to block the crit, but still takes 10 damage and is removed from the field.
The duelist struts up the board and picks up a Spirit Stone, standing eye to eye with the crooked menace who wiped out his teammates.
Out of range, shooting more than once when he shouldn't have, and still lost with the score to 11-12. DeathWatch barely managed to lose, and this has been the first match of our season.
Corsair Voidscarred are the winners, baby!
If you want to roll so good people think you're cheating, then grab yourself a set of premium resin dice from battlereport.com.
His rolls weren't even suspicious!